Hey, what's up? Today we're going to go over the environmental query system. And the first thing would be, what is an environmental query system? And basically, what it does is it can be used with behavior trees and it can pull through the environment using a variety of tests. And based on the results of those tests, it can make decisions on how to proceed. So, in the example I'm going to give, it's going to be the AI loses sight of the player, so it now needs to regain sight of the player by moving to a certain position to get a better vantage point. And that could be good for marksmanship. Like you have like an AI character that's has like a bow or something that's shooting at your character or something like that. Or you could have it where the character or the enemy's health is low, so he needs to go find a health pickup or something. Let's get started with the actual project. So the first part is the required setup stuff. I think by default for the plugins, it should be enabled. Let me just make sure. Okay, this environment query editor, this needs to be checked if it's not already. Mine by default was checked, so I'm going to assume yours is too, maybe, but maybe double check just to make sure that has a check mark on it. So in the content browser here, I am going to grab, well, let me create a folder for this first. So I'm going to create a new folder and I'm just going to make this AI. And this is just going to hold all my AI stuff for this. I'm actually putting things in folders this time. It's crazy, isn't it? So let me go to the third person character and I can just take this and I can drag this into my AI folder and I can put a copy in here so that I have this. And I'm just going to press F2 to rename it and I'm just going to call it BP underscore enemy. Alright, that's my first step here. But I also need the blackboard, the behavior tree. Well, let me do these in order. So let's see. I tend to look everything up. So behavior tree first. Let me just grab this. It's going to be BT enemy. I'm just going to call everything enemy. And then I'm going to get a blackboard as well. Blackboard essentially holds all your variables for your behavior tree. We're going to go into both of these things. You're going to see them in a second if you have no clue what I'm talking about. And then I want a environmental query. And it's going to be a EQS of finding the player. Okay, now I need a couple more things. I need the controller itself so that we can use that as the possessing thing. What is this? Oh, it's under blueprint classes. There we go. Controller, AI controller, and I'm just going to make this AIC underscore enemy. And then I want the final thing is going to be another blueprint class, and it's going to be the environmental query one. Let's do environmental, just call it query. Environmental query context is what I want. Environmental query context blueprint base. This is just part of a drop down menu. So I want to select this one and I'm just going to name it the EQC underscore player context. Okay. So what we want to do first is we want to go into the environmental query context, the player context one that we created. So I'm going to double click on this and I'm going to dock this up here. Let me just save this. And underneath the overrides up here, we want a single actor, provide single actor. So in here, we can provide actors or locations as well as like a set of actors or locations. For this, I'm just going to pick the actor, which is going to be the player itself. So I'm just going to get the player character. Get player character, and that's it. That's all I need to do for that. Compile and save. So now we're going to run into the EQS setup. So let me go into here, and you'll see that it looks a lot like the behavior tree, the way that it's set up. So off of this, I want to get the points of a grid, and you're generating a grid around the character. And so there's like a bunch of different types of the generators, and they're used to create items about a context. And those items are then used in the tests. Like, for example, how far away is item X from context Y? And from the results of the tests, items are called or scored and can be used to determine what is the best option based on the higher or the lower rating. So for this example, I'm going to be generating a series of points on a grid around the AI that will put it into a position where it can see the player character. So I'm going to make some changes here. So I want to change the grid half size to 800. So expanding on that, and the space between we're going to change to 150. And what these settings are used to define is the possible number of points to test against the distance between those points. So for performance reasons, you will want to keep this like at a manageable size. As if you have it too big, if you have the grid size too large, it's going to impact your game's performance. So using this generate around field, you can determine where the grid should be placed. In this case, around the courier or the AI character. While it will also work if we set generate around to use the player context we created, we don't want the AI to move up to the point on the grid near the player if it already has the line of sight to the player. So there's also the projection data here, and we can modify it even more so. I'm going to leave it as a default for here, but you can go back and edit these if you want to change any of that stuff. But I'm going to just right click on here, and I'm going to add a test, and I'm going to add a trace test. So this trace test is going to determine if a point on the grid can see the player character. So right click on the test again. We're going to get another test. It's going to be of distance. So after the trace test returns points that can see the player character, the distance test will be used to score those points based on their proximity to the player character. All right, now I want to change the trace on courier to visibility stuff. So I'm going to click on it, and I want this to be filter only. And I want this to be the EQC player context thing that we created. And I'm going to uncheck the bool match. And by doing all that, we are providing the player character as the point of reference in the trace test for the visibility. By disabling the bool match option, we are stating that we want to filter out any points that cannot see the player character. So now we want to select the distance test, and under here we want this as score only, and then we want to change the scoring factor to a -1. And for the distance test purpose, it's to score the items returned from the scoring factor of -1 scores points that are closer to the player character. If we left it at 1, which it was by default, it will return points that are furthest away from the player which will cause the AI to run right past the player character in an attempt to rush to the furthest point. So there's a bunch of other options in here. I'm going to leave it all by default, but they have options like clamping between a minimum value and maximum value. And they have stuff for like normalizing, so absolute or relative scores, and other stuff in here if you wanted to change things around as well. But I am going to leave everything by default. So let me go to the Blackboard. Well, let me save this real quick. So I'm going to go to the Blackboard now. And I'm going to go into here first. And we're going to create some new keys here. So this one right here, I'm going to make this a target actor. And I'm going to leave it key objective here. I'm going to drop down this. It's actor. I'm good to go for that one. But I also want a Boolean for has line of sight. Let me capitalize this, of sight question mark. I like to add question marks at the end of Booleans because they're kind of questions. I'll leave that. I'm going to leave that all together. That's fine. I'm going to leave this and create a vector here. And this is going to be to move to location. So these keys that I just created are going to be used to update and move between branches in our behavior tree. So now I need to move to our actual behavior tree. And I'm just going to go through this. I already have tutorials on Blackboard stuff, Blackboard behavior tree stuff. So if you want to look at that, I go into a little bit more depth on this stuff. But I'm going to create a selector node here. And I am going to drag this off here. Going to create another selector node. So this one, I want this to be the AI root. And right now I'm just changing the name of it. So this is my AI root. This is going to be my in combat. I want this one down here to be a sequence node. And it's going to be patrolling. So we have a patrolling one, and then I'm just going to have a wait here for, I'm just going to have it 1 second for now. And in combat, so I want a selector node between different combat states, one being a sequence for attacking, sequence, and then this one is going to be a sequence for moving into position. Move into position. And this one's going to be attack. So I'm going to break this down real quick. So in this graph, we have 3 main branches. The leftmost branch is going to be the selector node, which I named combat here. And that's going to switch between 2 sequence nodes. One for attack and the other to move into position. When the AI is not executing the in combat branch, it will execute the next branch, which is going to be the patrolling one. In the event, for whatever reason, the AI is not in either the combat or patrolling, we have a failsafe, and that's what this one is, the wait node. And I have it set for 1 second, so you just go back to doing its work before trying to move. So it'll wait 1 second before trying to move back to the branches in case these both fail for whatever reason. So what we're going to start with, messing with, is going to be our patrolling state here. So I'm going to get a move to which is a built-in thing here. And this target here is going to be changed to the move to location that we created as a variable. And the other patrolling thing is just going to be another wait. And this is going to be waiting in between patrolling. So it's going to be anywhere from 5 seconds. And you can set a random deviation to plus or minus whatever you want. I'm going to set it for 1. So it's 5 seconds with a plus or minus 1 second. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to create a new task for the AI to move to a random location. So I'm going to add a new task here, and I'm going to call it BTT random location, and it'll open up this graph here. So I don't know how much I should explain this. All right, well, the first thing I need to do is I need to get an event receive execute AI, and off this I need to get a branch. Let's see, true is going to set a Blackboard value as a vector, because it's going to be a location, and the key I'm going to actually create a variable off of. I just right clicked and created a variable off of it. I'm going to call it move to location, and I'm going to want to grab the controlled pawn off of here, get actor location. So I'm going to get the actor location. I'm going to get a random reachable point in the radius, normal radius. Get a random reachable point in radius. And let me drag off here onto here. And the radius that we're going to choose is going to be 1,000. Now this is going to be the condition for this branch. And then off of the false here, I'm just going to copy and paste this. So I don't need to copy and paste it. All you have to do is press Control D after highlighting it, and it'll duplicate the same thing. It'll duplicate that. And I can just drag the false into here. And then these both can feed into the finish execute, so that it knows that it's done executing. And I want to check this to say that it's a success. Oh, totally forgot to attach this here. All right, so what is all this? I'm just going to go through it real quick. I have an event receive execute AI. So if I receive this execute AI, I'm going to do whatever this is. In this case, it's going to take the control pawn. It's going to get the actor location. It's going to get a random reachable point in this radius of 1,000 to the actor. So 1,000 away in a radius around the actor. It's going to take that random location and it's going to set that value as the vector for the move to location. And this condition, if it's true or if it's true or it works, it's going to do the true function here. But if a random point is not found, we take, so under false, we take the actor's previous location and try to find a new location. And then this just finishes the execute and ends the process because it's a success. Okay, so before we leave this, We want to set this to instance editable because we want to be able to set the value in the behavior tree. So let's go back to the behavior tree, and under here I'm going to move this to the side because I want to get that thing that we just created for the random location, and we don't want the target actor, we want the move to location. All right, so now we want to do the quote-unquote combat step. In this tutorial, I don't really go over like combat, but setting up for what could be long-range combat at least. But anyway, so under the combat thing, we want to create a condition, so we're going to create a decorator. And we're going to create a Blackboard condition here. So under here, we want to change some settings here. So we want the observer to abort under lower priority, and we want it to be, we want to be the target actor, and is set, yeah. And we want to be the target actor. So by doing that, we are stating that once the target actor becomes set, we are executing the combat branch and aborting all the other lower priority tasks. All right, so let's go into the attack one here. And I'm also going to add a decorator on this of type Blackboard. Click on this, and instead we're going to do an on value change, and then we're going to do a lower priority. We're going to do a has line of sight, and then we're going to have is set. So yeah, everything there good. And here we are stating that if has line of sight is set, then execute the attack branch. If has no line of sight, then execute a different branch until has line of sight again. So our attack is going to just be rotating to the player right now. But yeah, so it's actually a built-in thing here. So rotate to face BB entry, and it just starts off as target actor, and that's exactly what we want. But if you wanted to add an attack later, you could. I'm just not doing it for this because I don't have, that would require me getting an attack function and having it attack a little bit extra for this video. But let me go to a move into position thing, and I'm going to run, this is where I'm going to run the EQS query. So I'm using this EQS query mode to update the assigned Blackboard key. I'm going to drop down this menu here, and let's just use the one and only thing that we've created so far. So it's the EQS find player. Click on that, and then I want to get the Blackboard key for move to location. So now it's kind of cramped. I'm going to move things around. Whoops. Bloop. And I'm going to move this here. And I'm going to move this over here. And I'm going to get a move to. And that's going to be the move to location for the Blackboard key here. And then I'm going to rotate to face BB entry, which is going to be the target actor. And this should be, let me expose this so we can see the full thing. This should be the full behavior tree that we need for this. So next we need to set up the AI controller for this. Let me save this first. So I'm going to go into the AIC enemy that we created. And this is going to be super quick. So let me just do an event on possess. Event on possess, and I just want to run the behavior tree. And it's going to be this behavior tree down in here. So when the enemy gets possessed, it's going to run this behavior tree. Although I do have to set up the site configuration. I totally forgot about that. So let me get AI perception here. And under this AI perception that we have, we need to set up the site configuration. So if I click this plus icon here, it's going to add an index here, and I need the AI site configuration here. I'm going to drop down this menu, then drop down the sense, and then drop the detection by, is that affiliation? Let's see. Yeah. Detection by affiliation, and I want to detect neutralis. So right now, this is the only way it's going to register that it's the player. So I need to click this so that it can register the player as the cited object. Okay, so now that we have the perception down, I'm going to click on the AI perception that we have here. And we're going to click on target perception updated. So I'm going to click the plus icon here. And next to that, we are going to, let me promote this to a variable first because I'm going to use this later. And this is going to be the perceived actor. Perceived actor. Spell that right? Is it? It's I-E. E-I. It's E-I. Okay. EI. Perceived. Perceived. Yes. Alright, doesn't matter. Anyway, so go down here. We're going to create a branch here. The condition. We're going to need to break this. So I'm going to click breaks AI stimulus here. And we're going to use the condition for this branch. I need something here first. Wait, let me get the actor. Actor has tag, and this tag is an indicator whether that's the perceived actor that needs to be engaged on. So I'm just going to make this player. And this also means that I need to label the actor that I'm using as the player, so that it can perceive this as the one it needs to go after. Anyway, I'm just going to drag off this condition onto here. So it has the actor tag. So if that is true, I'm going to create another branch. And the condition for here is if it is successfully sensed. And if that is true, then we'll do other things. Okay, so I'm also going to create something if I lose sight of that player. So I'm just going to click I'll drag off this false thing, and we're going to set a timer by event. By event. And that so-called event is going to be custom event. It's going to be lost sight. Lost sight. So if it loses sight, it's going to do whatever happens here, which I'm going to go over in a little bit. I'm going to promote this to a variable, and this is going to be my lost sight timer. Lost sight timer. So now I'm going to assign two functions in here. The first one being updating the site key, and the second one updating the target key. Can't see what I'm writing. Okay, so for the first one, the update site key, by the way, if this doesn't change it, you need to actually click on the thing up here. So even if you're hovering over the other one, if it's not changed up here, you're going to be editing the one that's up here. I don't know if I made any sense saying that. Whatever. Some of you will understand what I'm saying. All right, anyway, I'm going to add an input to this, and it's going to be has line of sight. Has line of sight, question mark, and it's going to be of type Boolean, as I put a question mark at the end of it because I like to do that. So let me get the Blackboard variable first. Blackboard, get Blackboard, and off of this Blackboard I'm going to set the value as a bool, set value as bool. I'm going to attach this update site key to this, and then the key name I'm going to grab off of this, and I'm going to make a literal name. When you're doing this, let me attach this boolean here. When you're doing this, I like to go back to the Blackboard here, and I like to copy it exactly the way it is. So I like just F2, and then I just Control C, and that way I don't make any errors, because this needs to be typed exactly the same way. So what I just did here is this enables us to use the function to pass through a bool value to our Blackboard key, which updates the has line of sight key. Now let's go to the update target key. So here I'm going to go back to inputs, and I'm going to add another thing called target actor. And under here I'm going to get a actor reference for object, and then off of this I'm going to set value as object. Set value as object. I did not grab the Blackboard thing. I need the Blackboard variable here, and then let me just drag off of here, set value as object, because we're using an object this time as our value, and that's just going to hook up directly in there for the exact same reasons as the last thing. Make literal name, and I bet you can guess what I'm about to grab next. It's going to be the target actor, and I'm gonna Control Z, did not mean to do that, Control C, and I'm going to go in here, Control V here, and now we have the target actor as the literal name. So now that we've done all that, let's go back to our event graph here, and where it says the lost site thing, I'm going to update the target key. Now let's go up here where it says branch, and off the true we're going to clear, well, let me grab the lost site timer here. Let me clear and invalidate timer by handle. And what that will do, it's going to stop and reset the timer being used while losing sight of the player character. So now off of this, I want to update the site key. Update the site key as being seen, in that I have line of sight of whatever I'm looking at. And I want to update the target key to the target actor. So the perceived actor that we have here, just drag that on here. Just bring it up here. That's fine. The losing the sight. So I need to add this thing here. So I'm gonna Control D this over here. But in this here, I need to get rid of has line of sight, because I don't have line of sight at the moment. It's false. So now the AI controller is set up and runs the behavior tree, and it updates the Blackboard keys based on when we perceive an actor with the tag player, which is whatever I add player to, through the AI perception system. So now I'm on to the final steps of this, which is adding this to the AI, but also adding the tags to the player so that it can be perceived. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the BP enemy, which I haven't opened yet, And under the BP enemy, where it says the AI controller, wherever the heck that might be, it's AI controller, the AI controller class, we're going to make it the AIC enemy that we just created. And let's see. Use controller rotation yaw. So what I just did there, for the AI to execute the rotate task inside the behavior tree, we need to enable the character rotation yaw. And we also assign the custom AI controller class that has our logic in it and runs the behavior tree. All right, so what did I just do there? So for one, I assigned the AI controller to this BP enemy, which the AI controller had all of our logic and stuff on it, so that it could use the behavior tree and update the stuff and everything else. And the second thing, I checkmarked that yaw because the yaw is essentially the rotation. It allows it to rotate the left and right. And I need to checkmark that because we need the character to rotate to whatever it needs to rotate to. Additionally, you could delete other stuff in here like the follow camera, camera boom, or whatever. I'm just gonna leave it. It's not, doesn't matter to me right now. But yeah, you could delete that if you wanted to. But I am going to compile and save this, and I'm going back to the map here. And what I need to add is a nav mesh bounds volume. Volumes, nav mesh bounds volume. I'm going to zero this out. I don't know what the scale is for this. Whoops. Let me change this back to 1. If you hit the locking mechanism on the corner here, you can scale everything together. Did that cover the whole thing? That covers way more than I needed. All right, so if you press P here, it'll show you where the player where the AI can move within inside the nav mesh bounds volume, which is the entire area. So I'm good here. So I'm gonna press P again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my third person character, go inside here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the tags. And under the actor advanced tags thing, I'm going to hit the plus button here, and I'm going to change this to player, because that is what I named it. So now inside the AIC enemy that we created before, when the AI perception system perceives an actor and that actor has the tag player, our branch will be evaluated as true. So now I'm going to mess around with the environment a little bit. Let me just delete some stuff. I'll probably speed through this, so I'm just going to add some cubes. If you hold Alt and drag, you can make copies of things. So holding Alt, dragging, create another one. And I'm control clicking everything so I can copy them all. And then I'm going to Alt drag them some more so I can have even more of them. Alright, so let me drag this guy in the space here. BP enemy. Going to rotate him. And that's where my controller is, so that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to hit play. Okay, he perceives me. I'm out of his view range. And he's going to move to a location where he can see me again. So wait, let me just hide again. Let me just run over here. Can you see me? Oh, he can see me. Well, yep, and that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to show you. I hope this helps. Yeah, have a good one. Bye.